The whole town of Dry Creek fell silent the moment Lila Mae Carter stepped onto the boardwalk. It was not because she was loud. It was because she refused to lower her eyes. Dust clung to the hem of her split riding skirt as she walked past the barber shop, her boots striking the wood with steady confidence. The late summer sun of 1881 baked the Arizona Territory town into a restless heat, and gossip hung thicker than the dust in the air. Wild, unfit, too stubborn for her own good. The words had followed her for 2 years now, ever since her father was buried on the hill overlooking their struggling cattle ranch. Lila did not look left or right as whispers curled around her like smoke. She's going to lose that place by winter. No woman can handle 200 head alone. She ought to marry or sell. She stopped in front of the bank. Inside, through the glass window, she could see Mr. Dawson, the new bank manager, already watching her approach like a man waiting for a show. Lila pushed the door open. The bell rang sharp and clear. "Miss Carter," Dawson greeted, his smile tight and polite. "I was just thinking of you." "I doubt that," Lila replied evenly, removing her gloves and placing them on his desk. "You were thinking about my payment." His smile thinned. "As a matter of fact, yes. The extension your father was granted expires at the end of the month. That's 10 days from now." "Correct. And you expect full repayment." "Of course." Lila held his gaze without blinking. "The herd is healthy. I'll have calves ready for market within 3 weeks. I'm afraid 3 weeks won't help you." The words settled like a weight in her stomach. "What do you mean?" "The board has decided to accelerate repayment," Dawson said smoothly. "We can't carry risky loans." "Risky?" Her voice sharpened. "My father never missed a payment." "Your father," he corrected gently, "was not a 25-year-old unmarried woman trying to run a cattle operation alone. There it was, not business, control." Lila straightened her shoulders. "You'll have your money." "I hope so," he said lightly. "Because if not, there are buyers ready to take that land off your hands." She knew exactly who he meant. Mayor Harlan had been circling like a buzzard since the funeral. Lila picked up her gloves. I won't sell. We'll see." She left the bank with her chin high, but her chest tight. 10 days. 10 days to find money she did not have. Outside, Mrs. Pickett from the Mercantile stood fanning herself. "Any good news?" the woman asked sweetly. "Plenty," Lila replied. "I enjoy being underestimated." Mrs. Pickett sniffed. Lila walked toward the general store, pushing down the panic rising inside her. She could not afford fear. Not now. Inside the store, the air was cooler. Barrels of flour and sacks of grain lined the walls. A few ranch hands lingered near the counter. She felt the stares, felt the judgment. She walked straight to Mr. Henson and handed him her list. "Fence wire, salt blocks, 2 sacks of feed." "That's quite the order," he muttered. "Running that ranch hard." "Oh, are you?" "It runs just fine." "Still planning to keep it?" "Yes." Before he could respond, the door opened behind her. Boots hit the floor with a heavy, confident sound. The room shifted. Even before she turned, Lila felt it. A presence. She glanced over her shoulder. He was tall, broad across the shoulders, sun-browned skin, worn leather chaps over faded trousers, a revolver resting low on his hip. His hat shadowed sharp blue eyes that took in the entire room in one steady sweep. A stranger. Dry Creek did not get many of those. "Morning," he drawled, voice deep and calm. He stepped forward, removing his hat briefly in polite acknowledgement to the room. When his gaze landed on Lila, it paused. Not judging, not amused, just curious. Mr. Henson perked up. "Passing through?" Maybe, the stranger replied. Name's Caleb Hayes. Heard there might be ranch work around here. Several eyes slid immediately to Lila. Henson cleared his throat. Well, the Carter place might need hands, though I wouldn't recommend it. Lila turned slowly. I'm standing right here. Caleb's mouth twitched slightly. This your ranch? He asked her directly. Yes. He studied her openly now. The split skirt, the boots, the fire in her eyes. You hiring? The question caught her off guard. I might be. Before she could say more, Mrs. Pickett spoke loudly from the back. You should know, she said to Caleb. Miss Carter has quite the reputation. Wild ideas. Thinks she can run cattle like a man. Completely unfit for proper society. Silence dropped over the store. Lila's jaw tightened. She had heard worse. But something about hearing it in front of a stranger burned differently. Caleb did not look at Mrs. Pickett. He looked at Lila. Slowly, carefully. Then one corner of his mouth lifted. Good, he said calmly. The word echoed. Mrs. Pickett frowned. I beg your pardon. He tipped his hat slightly toward Lila. You'll match me just fine. The air snapped. A couple of men near the flour barrels chuckled nervously. Lila blinked. Excuse me, she asked. I don't much care for proper society, Caleb continued. I care about hard work. If you're running cattle and need hands, that's all I need to know. He turned fully toward her. You looking for someone who knows how to handle a herd? Lila searched his face for mockery. Found none. I pay $20 a month, she said evenly. Room and board, whose work starts before sunrise. Sounds fair. You haven't seen the place. I rode past it on my way in, he replied. Fences need mending. Barn roof could use patching. Cattle look strong, though. Means someone's doing the job right. Her heart skipped once. No one in town had said that. Ever. Mrs. Pickett scoffed. You don't know what you're getting into. Caleb finally glanced her way. Ma'am, he said politely, I've never been afraid of a little wild. Lila felt something shift inside her. Not trust. Not yet. But something close to hope. Finish your business, she told him. My ranch is 5 miles west. If you're serious, you can find me there. His eyes held hers a second longer than necessary. I'll be there. As she stepped out of the store, whispers rose behind her. She did not care. But for the first time in months, the weight on her shoulders felt lighter. She had hired a stranger, a man with steady eyes and dangerous confidence. It might save her ranch, or it might ruin her. But one thing was certain. Dry Creek would be talking by sundown. And for once, Lila Carter was not facing the storm alone. The sun was already sinking low when Caleb Hayes rode through the gates of Carter Ranch. Lila was in the corral, wrestling a stubborn gray gelding that had decided it did not care for being saddled. Dust clung to her braid and streaked her cheek. She did not look like the fragile picture the town painted. She looked like someone fighting to keep what was hers. Caleb slowed his horse and watched for a moment. The gelding jerked sideways. Lila moved with it, steady and firm, one hand tight on the reins, and the other smoothing the animal's neck. Easy now, she murmured. You're not the boss here. Caleb swung down from his saddle. Need a hand? I've got it. The horse tried once more to rear. Caleb stepped in smoothly, placing a calm hand near its jaw, steadying it without force. The gelding stilled. Lila shot him a look. I said I've got it. I know, he replied calmly. Just figured we'd make it faster. For a second, she looked ready to argue. Then she noticed the way the horse had settled. She finished tightening the cinch. Fine, she muttered. You can stay. He smiled slightly. The ranch stretched behind her, smaller than it once must have been. Fence lines sagged in places. The barn roof dipped where storms had battered it. But the cattle in the far pasture looked strong and well fed. "You weren't lying," he said. "You're doing the work. I don't lie." They walked toward the house together. The porch boards creaked under their boots. Inside, the home was plain, clean, practical. No lace curtains, no decorative plates. Just a sturdy table, a stove, and a rifle mounted above the door. "You live alone?" Caleb asked. "I've got old Tomas who helps when he can," she replied. "But his legs aren't what they used to be." "And no husband?" She stopped and turned slowly. "That your business?" "No," he said evenly, "just making conversation." She studied him. "No husband," she answered finally. "No interest in one either." He nodded once. "Fair enough." She poured 2 cups of coffee and set one in front of him. "Here's the truth," she said. "I'm 10 days from losing this place, as the bank moved up my payment." "How much?" $200. He did not whistle, did not widen his eyes. He just leaned back slightly. "That's why you need hands," he said. "That's why I need everything." She met his gaze straight on. "I don't need saving. I need work done. Fences repaired, calves branded, herd ready to move." "Move where?" She hesitated. "North. Prescott Railhead. Prices are higher there. That's nearly 200 miles. "I know." "With how many riders?" 2. Me and whoever I can get." Caleb's jaw tightened slightly. "That's a hard drive." "So is losing everything." Silence stretched between them. Finally he nodded. "Then we move the herd." She blinked. "You just got here." "And?" "You don't even know me." He held her eyes. I know enough." Something in his voice made her chest tighten. The next morning began before dawn. Lila stepped onto the porch, expecting to be first awake. Caleb was already at the fence line, hammering in new posts. She frowned. "You trying to show off?" "Trying to fix what needs fixing." They worked side by side through the morning sun. No wasted talk, no boasting, just steady labor. By midday, she had to admit something she did not want to admit. He was good, better than good. He handled cattle like he had been born in the saddle. He spotted weak fence lines before she did. He moved with quiet confidence, never questioning her authority. Not once. When she gave instructions, he followed them. When he offered advice, it was useful, not condescending. By evening, her shoulders ached, but her mind felt clearer than it had in weeks. They stood at the edge of the pasture, watching the herd. "They look strong," he said. "They are." "Then why do you look like you're carrying the world?" She did not answer right away. "Because I am." He studied her profile. "You're not unfit," he said quietly. She laughed dryly. "You don't even know what they say." "I heard enough." She turned toward him. "And?" "And I think they're afraid of you." Her breath caught. "Afraid?" "Of someone who doesn't bow." The wind lifted loose strands of her hair. For a moment, neither spoke. Then, hoofbeats shattered the calm. A rider approached fast. Lila's stomach dropped when she recognized the bank manager's coat. Dawson pulled his horse to a stop in a cloud of dust. "Miss Carter," he called sharply. "We need to talk." She walked forward, chin high. "About what?" "Your loan. I've got 10 days. That was before this afternoon." Ice slid down her spine. "What are you talking about?" "The board reviewed your case again. Payment is now due in 5 days." 5? Her voice went cold. "You said 10. Circumstances change." "No," she said evenly. "You changed them." His eyes flicked to Caleb. "Careful who you bring onto your land, Miss Carter. You don't want your reputation getting worse." Caleb stepped forward slowly. "Sir," he said calmly, "her reputation seems just fine to me." Dawson's lips tightened. 5 days, he repeated, "or foreclosure begins." He turned his horse and rode away. Dust settled slowly in the silence he left behind. Lila stood very still. 5 days. Her chest felt tight, and her hands trembled slightly before she forced them still. Caleb moved beside her. "We'll make it," he said. "You don't know that." "I know you." She turned sharply. "You barely do." "I know you won't quit." For a second, she looked like she might break. Instead, she straightened. "We leave in 2 days," she said firmly. "Drive the herd north. We make the railhead in time, sell fast, ride back." "That's pushing hard." "So am I." His eyes held hers. "You almost look excited." She gave a thin smile. "I am." "Why?" "Because they think I'll fail." His mouth curved slightly. "Good." She tilted her head. "Good? You'll match me just fine." Something flickered between them again. Stronger this time. Not just respect. Not just partnership. Something dangerous. Something neither of them named. That the sun dipped below the horizon. 5 days. 2 riders. 200 miles. A desperate gamble. And a cowboy who did not look at her like she was wild and unfit. He looked at her like she was exactly what he had been waiting for. "Wait, before we move on, what do you think about the story so far? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'm really curious to know." The herd left Carter Ranch before sunrise. Dust rolled behind them as 180 head of cattle moved north under a sky painted in pale gold. Lila rode at the front. Caleb rode beside her. No speeches, no hesitation, just purpose. 5 days. That was all the bank had given her. 5 days to cross rough Arizona land, avoid storms, keep cattle together, and reach Prescott Railhead before foreclosure papers were signed in Dry Creek. The first day passed steady but tense. The cattle were strong, but pushing them hard meant risk. If they scattered, if one storm hit wrong, if a single steer broke a leg, she would lose time she did not have. By the second night, the air shifted. Clouds rolled in heavy and low. "Storm's building," Caleb muttered, watching the horizon. "We don't stop," Lila replied. "We don't have to stop, but we need to tighten the herd." Thunder cracked across the plains. The cattle grew restless. Rain fell hard and fast. Visibility dropped. The ground turned slick. Then it happened. One bolt of lightning split the sky so close it shook the earth. The herd exploded into motion. "Stampede!" Caleb shouted. Lila's heart slammed against her ribs. The cattle surged forward in blind panic, hooves pounding like thunder across the earth. What if they scattered? It was over. She drove her mare forward without thinking. Caleb rode hard at her side. "Cut them left!" he shouted. "I see it!" Ahead, she spotted danger. A shallow ravine hidden by grass and rain. If the lead steers went over, dozens would follow. Without hesitation, she spurred her horse straight toward the front of the stampede. She fired her revolver into the air. The sharp cracks cut through the storm. The lead cattle hesitated for half a second. Caleb reached the front line at the same moment, turning his buckskin sideways, forcing the leaders to veer. Mud splashed. Hooves slipped. But slowly, the herd curved away from the ravine. Lila's horse stumbled. For one breathless second, she felt herself tipping. Strong hands caught her reins. Caleb steadied her mount. You with me?" he shouted over the rain. "Always!" Together, They drove the herd back into a tight circle. The storm raged another hour before easing into steady rain. When it finally passed, both of them were soaked to the bone, but the herd was intact. Lila slid from her saddle, legs shaking. She turned slowly, scanning the cattle. All there, all alive. She let out a breath she had been holding for miles. Caleb walked toward her. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met," he said quietly, "or the most stubborn." "Both," she replied. He laughed, low and warm. Then his expression shifted. "You could have been trampled." "So could you." His voice softened. "I don't scare easy, but losing you would have done it." The words hung heavy in the damp air. She stared at him. Rain dripped from his hat brim, while his blue eyes were steady, not joking, not teasing, real. Her pulse quickened. "You barely know me," she said, though her voice lacked strength. "I know enough." Silence stretched. The storm clouds drifted east. Stars began to show. They reached Prescott on the 4th day. Dusty, exhausted, mud-streaked, but on time. The rail yard buzzed with activity. Buyers circled the herd, inspecting muscle, weight, condition. Lila stood tall through every negotiation. No hesitation, no apology. When the final offer came, she did not flinch. $23 per head, more than she had hoped. Caleb watched her as she signed the bill of sale, watched the moment her fingers closed around the thick envelope of cash. She had done it, not because someone saved her, but because she refused to quit. They rode back hard, 2 days without sleep, worth mentioning. When they reached Dry Creek, dust followed them down the main street. Whispers rose immediately. She did not slow. She rode straight to the bank. Caleb dismounted beside her. Inside, Dawson looked up. His expression shifted from confidence to confusion. "You're back early," he said carefully. Lila stepped forward and placed the envelope on his desk. "Count it." He did. Twice. $200. In full. His face went pale. "Well," he muttered, "that's unexpected." "No," she said calmly. "It's earned." She took her receipt without another word. Outside, townspeople watched from the boardwalk. Mrs. Pickett stood frozen near the general store. Mayor Harlan lingered by the saloon doors. Lila stepped into the sunlight, head high. Caleb moved beside her. "Oh, you just made a lot of enemies," he said quietly. "I already had them." He smiled slowly. "You also made something else." "What's that?" "History." She looked at him. Something inside her felt different now. Not just relief, not just victory, freedom. "What happens now?" she asked. He held her gaze. "That depends. On? Whether you want me to stay." The question settled deep in her chest. For years, she had convinced herself she needed no one. That independence meant isolation. That love was weakness. She looked at the ranch land stretching west beyond town, then back at him. Strong, steady, unafraid of her fire. "You still think I'm wild?" she asked softly. He stepped closer, close enough that she felt the warmth of him. "I think you're exactly what I've been looking for, and unfit for anyone who can't handle you," he replied. "But for me?" His hand brushed hers. "Perfect." The town watched. Whispers rose again. But this time, Lila did not hear judgment. She heard awe. He leaned down, not rushed, not reckless, and kissed her. Not to claim her, not to silence the town, but because she chose him, and he chose her. When they broke apart, she smiled. I guess you were right. About what? Good, she said softly. You'll match me just fine. A year later, Carter Ranch doubled in size. 3 years later, the town no longer called her wild with disapproval. They called her wild with respect. And every time someone whispered that she had been unfit for society, the cowboy beside her would just smile. Because sometimes, the world is wrong. And sometimes, two people who do not fit the mold fit each other perfectly. And that is more than enough.